Hello everyone, welcome to Betterversion, a channel sharing knowledge for holistic self-development through books. This week, I'd like to share an incredibly useful book on effective communication, Crucial Conversations. Crucial Conversations literally means pivotal dialogue or decisive conversation. However, the current Vietnamese translation title, The Art of Peak Negotiation, can easily mislead readers into thinking it's only for business people. In reality, crucial conversations are present everywhere in our daily lives. They directly impact the quality of your life and work. So, what exactly is a crucial conversation? It's a discussion with high stakes, meaning if communication fails, serious consequences will follow. For instance, you constantly remind your child to do homework, but they always evade or snap back at you. Or you propose a viable solution to your boss, only to be met with a cold reception. When a project is urgent, you ask your subordinates to work overtime but receive only silence. When you discuss finances with your spouse, you're ignored. When you ask a neighbor not to litter in your yard, they yell back at you, and so on. All such decisive communication scenarios are called crucial conversations. Another situation is when both parties have intense emotions. You and the other person get angry, raise your voices, and exchange harsh words. These exchanges also become crucial because they can lead to bigger conflicts, more arguments, and hurt the other person. Or in other cases, you and the other person have differing opinions, each with their own viewpoint, and sometimes they are completely contradictory. However, when these crucial moments arise, ordinary people usually react in one of two ways. The first is confrontation, verbally attacking and hurting others, losing control, losing composure, and messing things up. The second is avoidance, simply giving up, pretending nothing happened, and then avoiding the actual conversation. In reality, behind every communication problem, there's an underlying issue that needs to be resolved. In life, the more difficult a situation is to handle, the more complex the hidden problems become, and the greater their impact on your life. Whether you attack others with words or retreat into silence, both are ineffective communication, and they directly affect the family atmosphere. As a result, children might become distant, the marital foundation may shake, and affection between partners could fade. This often stems from countless unresolved crucial communication moments in daily life. Similarly, improper communication with leaders and colleagues will seriously affect your work process. The book I'm discussing today was compiled to address this very issue. The team of 4 authors comprises renowned behavioral researchers, speakers, and corporate training consultants. They spent over 20 years observing more than 100,000 people to create this masterpiece on communication. Reading this book today will help you express your views safely and effectively during crucial communication moments. Next, we will explore specific methods for effective, conflict-avoiding communication, mastering the conversation and escaping the fool's choice. The authors call the two choices confrontation or avoidance that we commonly use to handle crucial conversations, the fool's choice. These choices are based on animalistic instincts, rooted in prehistoric times, much like when humans encountered dangerous animals and would either flee or fight fiercely. But whether you flee or fight, at such moments, blood rushes to your limbs, not your brain. That's why when dangerous, crucial moments occur like speaking in public, talking to your boss, proposing to your loved one, arguing with your spouse, or hearing someone say something absurd, you feel your mind go blank and become very clumsy. The words you need to say don't come out, but the words you shouldn't say accidentally spill out. So, to avoid this situation, the first thing we must do is realize that the way you used to speak recklessly, angrily, or attack others, or how you avoided speaking your truth and suffered in silence, these are all instinctual forms of communication. If you want to master yourself and your life, you must overcome this instinct. So, how do you do that? Naturally, by maintaining reason and controlling your emotions. You may have heard many books and philosophies advise us to control our emotions, but why do we still easily lose our temper or feel sad whenever we hear words we don't like? The authors say that's because you haven't truly believed in or tried to build a core principle for communication. You must respect the other person 100% while also being 100% genuine. Many people don't believe this is possible because, simply, the truth can hurt. If you fear someone, you won't communicate genuinely. For example, fearing your parents, your boss, your friends leaving you, or your partner breaking up with you. But if you're not afraid, you might easily blurt out angry words, not compromising with anyone. So, to implement this principle, the first step is to understand how communication begins from the heart. Masters of communication can always speak from the heart. So, what does it mean to communicate from the heart? We need to know that the heart is where you can return to simplicity and sincerity. The heart itself doesn't know anger. Only the instinctual ego knows anger. A crucial conversation shifts from normal to heated or sinks into the silence of conflict, certainly when anger begins to smolder within you. Some express their anger outwardly with bitter, blaming words, while others hide it inside with indifference and disregard. But in any form, when anger engulfs the heart, genuine communication becomes impossible. The authors point out that people essentially get angry to find excuses for themselves and blame others. When you hear something that makes you uncomfortable or goes against your wishes, your inner self often experiences one of three psychological states. First, the victim mentality. With this mindset, they are evil, they are wrong, they are stupid. But I am good, I am right, I am smart. The second type is the villain mentality. This means you exaggerate your own innocence and overemphasize the mistakes of others, completely ignoring their good, neutral intentions or excellent actions. For example, you might think a boss who is too focused on product quality down to every detail is a control freak. Or when your husband tells you to keep the house clean and tidy, you might say he's fussy and fastidious. The third type is the helpless mentality. Whatever I say is useless, he will never listen. I've previously discussed the ABC cognitive model. A is the event that occurs, B is how you perceive that event, and C is your stress level. When you have one of the three mentalities above, you will certainly be stressed. If you want to reduce stress, what's the best way? Will you change A or change B? Many people spend their lives trying to change A in order to change C, for example. Your child getting bad grades is event A, you feel ashamed of it. Viewing it as a direct reflection of your parenting ability, this is B, how you perceive the event. Finally, you feel anxious and stressed, this is state C. To solve this problem, you believe you must talk to your child or pressure them to study better, changing it to change C, but you'll find that no matter how much you try to change A, you still won't feel less stressed, because your child might not be able to get better grades. Or even if they do, they might secretly resent you or become distant. Or some other children, when subjected to harsh pressure, will choose to silently endure psychological damage. You need to know that your tendency to get angry, stressed, and want others to change is an instinct. This is also a social habit. The book Where the Next Flower Blooms states that only when you learn to break social habits will you stop blaming others for all your unhappy emotions. Only then can you return to the essence of the matter. Only then can you converse from the heart instead of blaming the person who made you angry. At that point, you won't get angry easily. We talk to each other to solve problems, not for the purpose of making someone change drastically according to your wishes. Once you are conscious of changing your perspective, the next important step is to redefine the purpose of the conversation. This is another step to bring you back to your heart. Here, the author points out a 4-question roadmap that will guide you back to the essence of the matter. Before speaking, you should ask yourself these questions. Suppose your child constantly using their phone, scrolling through entertainment, and texting makes you angry, and you want to have a crucial conversation with them. At this point, don't rush to speak. First, ask yourself, what is your ultimate desire? I hope that after this conversation, it will help my child reduce screen time and focus more on studying. Next, you need to ask yourself another question. What do I want the other person to achieve? I want my child to feel my love, to feel that I always want what's best for them, and to find a balanced method between studying and playing. The next question, for both of you, what do I want this relationship to achieve? I hope that after this conversation, my relationship with my child will become closer, so they can feel my unconditional love. When you can answer the first 3 questions for yourself, then for the 4th question, what should I do? You will naturally have many better options. Perhaps you will be patient and choose a more appropriate time to talk to your child. You might gently express your concern for your child first, then listen to their perspective. You connect with your child using your own past experiences, saying that when you were young, you also loved playing games or admiring idols, spending a lot of time watching movies. That's the truth and a very normal thing everyone goes through. Finally, you slowly guide your child. When your mood improves and you are calm, only then can you talk effectively. Furthermore, even if you remain calm during the conversation, if your child cannot control their emotions well, that's also very normal. We will discuss later what to do when the other person loses their temper. But first, here you need to remember not to let others easily dictate to you. The key to answering these 4 questions is to always remember the meaning of the conversation. Do you know why many people, while talking to someone, suddenly get angry, slam the door, and leave? Why is that? The reason is because they have forgotten the purpose and meaning of the conversation, forgotten their true goal. They feel, you offended me, you humiliated me, you disrespected me, so I need to retaliate. Their weak ego begins to retaliate, thus interrupting the conversation and reacting with such strong emotion. In The Godfather *, there's a saying, never let your opponent make you angry. When you are provoked by an opponent, your wisdom will be reduced to nothing. Your child, your loved one, your colleague, your partner are not opponents. But the important thing is not to let anyone you're facing provoke you. Always remember the meaning of the conversation when your emotions are almost out of control. Just remind yourself of the purpose of the conversation once or twice, and your emotions will gradually calm down. At this point, you can communicate from the heart and become a dual-processor communicator. Next, to communicate well in crucial moments, we need to develop a dual-core processor for ourselves. I really like this concept. A dual-core processor, like a phone or CPU with a dual-core chip, works more efficiently than a single-core one. The reason crucial conversations escalate from normal to out of control is that people often use only a single processor for communication. You only process the content of the conversation, not its atmosphere. Many times when people talk, one person keeps talking and the other doesn't want to listen and just wants to stop. But as soon as they hear, just stop talking, the other person will continue speaking and even more. Eventually, the first person gets increasingly angry and starts raising their voice, and the other person responds with anger as well. Thus, both become more aggressive with each other, and the conversation's atmosphere shatters. Why do we often fall into such situations? There are 2 reasons. First, everyone is obsessed with saying what they want to say. We just want to vent our grievances and complaints, rationalizing it by saying, I'm saying this because I want what's best for them. But in reality, you don't see the other person's resistance, nor do you see their pain. The second reason is that we always only hear unfairness. For example, a father sees his daughter hanging out with a group of friends, constantly going to nightclubs. The father is very worried and talks to his daughter. The result is that as soon as the conversation begins, the daughter gets angry and says, "You've never paid attention to me, you don't care about me. You don't want me to hang out with them just because you're afraid of losing face for this family." When you hear this, wouldn't you think the father would be heartbroken? Clearly, those words are unfair to the father. But if the father pursues fairness in life, he might bang on the table, stand up, and yell, "If you think I don't care about you, then do whatever you want. Go wherever you want. Don't come back here crying when something happens." Here, we see, would fairness improve the father-daughter relationship? The father's words would only further confirm his daughter's belief that he doesn't love her. The girl might get angry and immediately leave, while the father would be disappointed and go drink alone. Family life, little by little, stands on the brink of irreparable tension. In reality, during a dialogue, only those with weak inner selves, like immature children, loudly demand fairness. A mature person with a strong inner self will not pursue fairness during a dialogue, but will think about how to solve the problem and how to make things better for both parties. Therefore, when communicating, don't just focus on the content of the story, don't just focus on what you hear, and only care about what you want to express. We need to remember that the most important thing in a conversation is not fairness, but a balance between content and atmosphere. You might not see the atmosphere of the conversation, but others always feel it, because the atmosphere of a conversation is a type of nonverbal communication, but it's equally powerful. Humans, by instinct, when sensing unsafety, will either confront or flee to protect themselves. Therefore, if you want yourself and others to be able to open up, converse genuinely, and receive 100% respect, the only way is to bring the dialogue back to a safe zone. So, the first method to create a safe atmosphere when there's a risk of explosion is to apologize. People are often afraid to talk to someone who never admits they're wrong. In the above case, the father could start by lowering his ego, bringing the relationship back to balance with his child by admitting, "Perhaps in the past, your mom and I were too busy with work and didn't spend enough time with you. I'm very sorry about that. Today, let's both take some time. Come sit down here and talk with me, okay?" An apology doesn't represent bowing down or demeaning oneself. On the contrary, it shows you are truly strong. A timely apology is a great strength that comes from the heart, saying, "I want to protect this relationship," or "I truly love my family. I sincerely apologize if there are some things I haven't grasped correctly. If I said something wrong, I hope you can point it out," and so on. The second method is to explain through contrast. For example, "My purpose in talking about this is to hope you make progress this year, not to put pressure on you." Or, "My purpose in talking to you is to hope we can resolve the conflicts of the past few days, not to blame you." When you clearly state the purpose you want to achieve, explaining what you are about to say beforehand, it helps diffuse the tense atmosphere. Another method is to create a common goal. We both want the company to develop well. We both want to create better products, and so on. When you emphasize a common goal, the other person will feel safe and become cooperative in resolving the issue. There's also another method: always maintain a respectful attitude. Respect is like the air we breathe. You don't feel it when it's present, but as soon as it disappears, you immediately notice. Without air, you suffocate. Without respect, the conversation will be choked immediately. Maintaining a respectful attitude is not just superficial politeness. It needs to be something we cultivate gradually. We must be able to maintain respect from the bottom of our hearts for everyone around us. If you notice the other person's emotions starting to become unstable, you need to ask yourself if you just said something disrespectful. Using these 4 methods: apologizing, creating common goals, explaining through contrast, and above all, maintaining a respectful attitude can effectively help us calm the atmosphere. These methods are applied when you notice the other person starting to get angry. But what if you are the one who explodes first? Then my advice is, it's best to stop the conversation and withdraw for a while. During this time, ask yourself what the purpose of the conversation is for you, so you can truly calm down and return to your core self, not being pulled away by your ego. These are the preparatory steps for you to know how to control the atmosphere, make the other person feel safe, and give both of you the opportunity to open up honestly. Now, let's begin the heart-to-heart conversation. Speaking the truth. Why are many people afraid that the truth hurts? Because they always pair the truth with a resentful attitude or judgmental words. You simply need to state an event. Instead of telling a colleague, "You're working too slowly on this. The customer is furious." Tell the truth. "I noticed the project is progressing slower than expected. Could you share any difficulties you're facing?" Instead of telling your child, "Why do you spend all your time dancing? That's why you only got a 5 on this test," simply state the truth. "I see your test score this time is a 6. Do you think those dance sessions are affecting your study time? Let's review your schedule together and consider your study time for better results." Instead of telling your partner, "Why do you mess up everything you do? It's really exhausting," it's better to say, "I feel there are some things we need to improve together. What do you think about us finding a way to solve these issues?" Declarative sentences that include words like "why," "how come," "really too," "it's truly," and so on are no longer expressing the truth but have become a place for your ego to criticize, blame, and resent the other person. After stating the truth of the existing problem, you will then want to express your desires or persuade the other person to do something. So, how do you say it to avoid conflict and not create pressure? At this point, we need to recall the heart-guiding question. The ultimate purpose you want to achieve is what's best for both. Therefore, you need to use a win-win mindset. Here's an example with a sensitive issue: asking for a raise. You can state the problem and say, "I feel that after a raise, I can better unleash my potential and strengths. At the same time, I also feel it's fair. I don't want you to feel that I only work for money. I hope to contribute more to the company. We hope you will consider this matter." Then, you can also continue by asking for the other person's perspective. "I'd like to hear your thoughts on my work, as well as any other opinions or suggestions you might have for me." Why ask for others' opinions? This is to avoid the other person falling into silence or personal attacks. Silence is to avoid addressing the issue, and personal attacks are to find reasons to make things difficult for you. But even if you've spoken this way and still face criticism, or the other person chooses to ignore you, it's okay. We need to use the method mentioned earlier. restore your own emotions, and bring the communication atmosphere back to a safe state. The most important thing is that when the other person's view differs from yours, or even if it's wrong, at this moment we need to find common ground and express agreement. For example, we both hope the company is a place that values dedication, and I completely agree with that. Or, we both want the company to save costs, and I completely agree with this. Rushing to immediately deny what someone else says will cause them to react violently. We must find common ground, points where you can agree with that person, and also to bridge the communication gap. Remember, in crucial conversations, you must consider not only your own interests but also the interests of others. Only then can you add and explain blind spots that the other person might not be aware of. For example, over the past 3 years, I've worked very hard to achieve the company's goals, and according to annual evaluations, I've always received excellent results. I truly feel proud of what I've accomplished with the company. I've also thought about my current salary, and I feel it doesn't truly reflect the level of my contributions. After 3 years, I believe a salary adjustment would be a great motivation for me to continue striving and contributing even more. With my current salary, it might reduce my enthusiasm for work, and I might even consider resigning and choosing another job. I don't want to leave the company. This might not bring good results for both sides. Therefore, my proposal is that the company could increase my salary and assign me some additional tasks. I would then be willing to contribute more. This would also be an encouragement for my professional growth. Doing so would not only create value for the company, but also improve my life. What do you think about this? In summary, when the other person's viewpoint is completely different from yours, you can still use the method of expressing the truth and offering constructive opinions with a win-win objective to reach a collaborative agreement for mutual development. But truly, this will be extremely difficult because many people have long rooted themselves in entrenched beliefs. However, it is precisely these difficulties that make our lives interesting. Because it's hard, we need to continue practicing and taking advantage of every opportunity for crucial conversations to cultivate ourselves. At this point, you will become a skilled communicator and be able to converse from the heart. Once you can train your ability to control your emotions, not get angry immediately, calmly express the truth, and create a safe conversational atmosphere for others to help both escape meaningless emotional confrontations, that's already a great success. Because at this point, you have overcome instinct, overcome social habits, and put yourself in the other person's shoes. Remember, a crucial conversation always needs to come from the heart. Your words represent your ultimate true goal, which is to desire something good for both, not to manipulate others through discussion or negotiation. It's also not to satisfy your own desires while ignoring the other person's needs, or merely to say what will please the other person. In conclusion, effective communication skills in crucial moments are not to win people over, but above all, to conquer yourself, to conquer the angry demon and the big ego within you. I hope that every word spoken daily is an opportunity for all of us to cultivate our souls, grow, and live a happier life.